part of the new normal in the United States is for leaders to accept that they can make mistakes and put it out there. But they can't do it if they haven't built a community of trust, because while that's happening, we also have the cancel culture, which means one step and you're out. So you have to have people that trust to say, yeah, okay, you made a mistake this time. Let's try it again together.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. I'm your host, Aishwarya Jain. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM, that's specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and channel that receives more than 400,000 visitors a year, and we also publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month. And today with us, we have a very special guest, CB Bowman. So a short introduction about CB. She is ranked as the #1 coach for increasing the quality of coaching for her work as the CEO of Association of Corporate Executive Coaches and the MEECO Leadership Institute. CB created ACEC, the Association of Corporate Executive Coaches, where the world's top-tier executive coaches collaborate, build relationships, and foster new opportunities as part of an elite tribe whose focus is on being an enterprise-wide business partner with their clients. CB's newest organization, Workplace Equity and Equality, is focused on positive experiential-based learning for organizations and coaches in moving from intention and commitment for workplace social justice to action. Welcome, CB. We are so thrilled to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited. I feel like now I'm part of your elite group of people that you've interviewed, and let's rock it.
Absolutely. And you know, CB, I have been so amazed with your energy, with your passion for the things you've done. You've had an impressive portfolio of things you've done in the past and continue to do. If you could tell our audience and share a little bit more about what's the work that you're focused on right now and how has your, journey been so far?
So my journey has been difficult as a Black American here in the United States, and one that has experienced extreme discrimination in the workplace. Right? Not in my private life, but definitely in the workplace. And I was actually shocked by it when I started working. Right now, the two exciting things that I'm working on, you just mentioned. One is the Association of Corporate Executive Coaches, called ACEC. And I'm just so proud of it. I get tongue-tied talking about it because we have incredible members who have both humility as well as work knowledge, experience, and the clients they work with at the top of the ladder. And they're willing to share and meet together and just continue to learn from each other and befriend each other. So I feel lucky to know each and every one of our members. Then, excuse me, the weather's very dry here in Colorado. The other thing I'm incredibly proud of is what we call which is Workplace Equity and Equality. And that is an organization that my smile can't get any bigger. My cheeks are hurting. It's an organization that focuses on helping individuals and organizations to experience and understand diversity, equity, and equality, not from a shame or blame perspective, but from a knowledge base. So we don't go around tooting that we're going to change the world or change people. Instead, our platform is to inform and then let the person or the organization make a decision. And that informing comes from the person who's listening, their experience, because we all have different experiences that trigger us to think one way or another. And we all have biases, you know. For me, it's peas. You know, I can't stand peas except if they're in split pea soup, right? So there's always a way to work with people to let them experience and understand and maybe agree in a different shape or form. So if you take that pea and you put it in pea soup with lots of other peas, and you put some ham, well, in my race, some ham hogs in it, then we're good to go, right? So those are the two things that are near and dear to my heart, in addition to the fact that I just got married and my husband. So
Oh, that's nice. Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you.
That is so wonderful, CB. I think the work that you're doing is just phenomenal because so many of our fellow Americans and Black Americans probably go through so many things at their workplaces, and it's just hard for them to really come out of their shells and talk about it. And I think through your organizations, through the work that you're doing, it's just so amazing that they'll get a voice to really kind of put it out there in front of the world, and that's so amazing, so impressive. And
Yes. And put it out without guilt.
absolutely without guilt, that's the most important. And I
Mhm.
know that you're a huge advocate of workplace diversity. You've got some really interesting podcasts that you put out on CV Live as well. um, Why do you think that diversity has taken center stage now more than ever? Do you think it's more relevant now than it was before? And what are your thoughts around it?
So I don't think it's more relevant than before. I think it's it's more exposed than before to a wider group, a wider, I don't want to say audience because then it sort of denigrates, but I'd say to a wider um, group of people within the United States. And so here's the way I like to explain it. Back in the days of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, there was diversity was always important. Back to the days of slavery, right? But back when Malcolm X and of course slavery and Martin Luther King were walking and talking, it was very narrow in terms of the communication. So you might see an abuse or something on the front page of the newspaper. But then what did you do with that newspaper? You took it and you tossed it, or you lined the garbage, or you wrapped the fish, or whatever, or cleaned the windows with it. Whatever it was gone. It was gone from your sight. It was gone from your memory within a short period of time. Your retention wasn't there. Your focus wasn't there. And today, with the killing of Floyd, it was in your face 24/7. And kudos to Black Lives Matter because they are not going to let these situations go away, much the same as the Nazi camps, where the Jewish population will constantly remind you of what happened so that it doesn't happen again. We don't want those camps to happen, regardless of your faith, race, whatever. And we want diversity, we want inclusion, we want belonging, we want culture change. And what seems to be needed is these front page headlines. And now when I say front page, I mean on social media. I mean having a community like Black Lives Matter to continuously remind us so that it doesn't happen again. And so we are now focused on this as all people, not just some people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, I think what you're saying is absolutely right. Somehow it's just now more exposed. It's out there in the open for more people to see, and it's right there. Like you said, it's 24/7 in their face because it's kind of just, it's become this huge kind of revolution now. And it's just amazing to see how it's spread out in literally every country in the world knows about Black Lives Matter, knows about the Floyd killing, and it's not something you can ignore because it's time to take action against all the injustice that's been happening. And
Yeah.
it's really amazing how you've been able to kind of coach and help people just make aware of the things that are happening around you, which you probably are just blindfolded to, or you just do not want to talk about it because it's taboo, or you just want to ignore it. But really now it's just
I was with a group of white men in a forum, and I was the only woman and the only Black person, and they all immediately, upon our convenience, said, CB, we're so sorry for what you've been through. We didn't know it, we weren't aware. And I said, stop. First of all, with due respect, you don't know what I've been through. And you can never know what I've been through. So while I appreciate it, let's start from that framework. The second framework of your being guilty, let's look at it this way. If you scratch your eyeglasses and you put them on, eventually you don't see the scratch. It's just the same thing as having a picture of your loved ones on your desk. Eventually you really don't see it. If you take your glasses and you drop them on concrete and they shatter and you try to put them on, you cannot ignore it. The world, it's particularly led by the United States, has just dropped its glasses on concrete, and the world is watching. I
absolutely.
talked to colleagues in different parts of the world, in Canada, in Africa, in Europe, and they've said to me, gosh, we don't have this problem here. And I said, oh, but you do. You just call it something different. So your glasses are a different color, but they're still shattered. Because in Canada, you have the indigenous population. And where do they stand? Let's just take COVID-19. How many of them were cared for in the same way that non-indigenous people were cared for? And the conversation stops and people realize that their eyeglasses have been shattered. In Africa, same conversation. We don't have that. Really? You want to think back? And today, I think you do. Well, we respond differently. I said, we're not talking about a question of response here. We're talking about, do you or don't you? And the answer is, you do.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, that analogy, I think it's just so simple, but it makes you see things in such a different perspective. I feel like the more we expose this, the more people become aware of this, and somewhere down the line you just know that what's happening is wrong. You just know in your heart that there has to be something done for this. And I think it's probably, maybe it took COVID for that to happen, because it's sad that it takes disasters to happen just to kind of realize something, to change, for change to happen. But at least I think it's happening, so it's positive in a way. um, so that's great. Also, yeah.
When I was a kid and I traveled abroad, um, it's funny because I had a sense that something was different. than my experience in the United States. And I remember having conversations with people in England and London and Italy, and I was treated different. I couldn't figure out what it was. And as I grew up, I realized that the world, the countries I traveled to were embracing me because they understood my experience in the United States was not positive. And it was such an aha moment when I realized that. And then I remembered when I was in Istanbul and I was walking down the street and I realized these little kids were peeping around the corner of buildings to look at me because they had never seen a Black female. And I started laughing so hard. And I'd wave to them and they'd duck away and then they'd come back and eventually they'd come over and they'd say, hi, want to talk to me. And, you would think I would be upset about it, but I wasn't because I exposed them to a new reality in a way that supported their future journey.
Yeah. Yes, that must be quite a journey for you.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing with AEC. You've been in the coaching business for a long time now. You've partnered with some really top level coaches, and as a leader, I think there are a lot of struggling leaders that are now going through a lot of change, but over time, do you think that there are some characteristics, some qualities that you think sets apart a top class leader?
Yeah, I do. And I think now with the fact that we're in 5 pandemics here in the United States, um, the top leaders are rising to the top like cream, right? Rises to the top. And what we have found is those leaders that are rising to the top have built trust from their employees. And if you have a chance, watch the interview that I did yesterday on my CB Bowman Live Workplace Equity and Equality, or Quality and Equity. I interviewed a global D&I leader from Bank of America. And Bank of America has done it right in terms of diversity, inclusion, equity, and equality. And their CEO, Brian, has been on this journey since 2018, 2015, 2018. One of the things that CEOs have done in the diversity space is those that are awakening now want to do everything instantly, not allowing for any room for errors, which is incredibly important. A part of the new normal in the United States is for leaders to accept that they can make mistakes and put it out there. But they can't do it if they haven't built a community of trust, because while that's happening, we also have the cancel culture, which means one step and you're out. So you have to have people that trust to say, yeah, okay, you made a mistake this time. Let's try it again together, right? So I think the leaders now have to build trust within their organization, because there's a realization that there will be another pandemic. And if you go to put in triage, you can't do it without your employees. So that's the second thing. Leaders are recognizing they're not alone and the employees rule, right? Before it was generations of leaders ruling. So that's another awakening. The other thing is you can't wait to 0 hour. You have to have feet on the ground to tell you that this is going to happen. This is happening now. a really good example. You asked me about um, leaders in terms of making decisions in terms of employees working from home. That's an easy decision. If your employee wants to work at home and you're not in a company that requires them to work hand to hand with somebody else in the company, like meat packing or building a car, manufacturing, that sort of thing, and they want to work from home, let them work from home. It's now proven that people are more productive working from home. Why would you want to ignore that statistic to go back to archaic modes of working? That's only going to reflect resentment and lack of trust. And trust me, you need that trust to move your organization forward. You need that trust to continue to build innovation. You need that trust in order to, I sound like a preacher, but in order to manage and focus on competition when necessary. I remember in the days of when I was with General Foods, and this is a cute story, but a serious one. General Foods had tons of lawyers working for them. Kraft Foods came along and bought General Foods and terminated all the attorneys, except one or two. We couldn't figure out why. Why would you do that with a food company? And the rationale was because we hire outside for our attorneys. We outsource it. And that's because those attorneys are out there, feet on the ground, immersed in what's happening. They're not hiding in their office and writing policy and procedure. The same thing now with employees working from home. They are in the world. They are not in their little cubicle. It's important that employees realize this. And I'm just shutting down, my computer is talking to me. And accept it and use it to propel the organization forward.
Yeah, I think that,
Drop the mic.
yeah.
Drop the mic, as we say.
Absolutely. I know of cases, where employers just want to see their employees on a video screen the entire day just because they don't trust them and they want to see if they're being productive. And that is so ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. And it does not build trust. It builds antitrust, right? Because it's proven that employers, first of all, when they're happy, they're going to do more. Second of all, look at the work that's being produced. Don't look at when it's being produced. And if the work is good, top quality, then go away. Mind your business. As my mother used to say to me, mind your own business. Look at the results. Come on now. We're grown up. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think through the pandemic, a lot of leaders have realized that, you know, employees are frustrated because of this whole attitude of employers not trusting them. And that's come into light. And I think the way we approach an organization, a team now, that's just going to change because that bond is just so important to trust and to make sure that the little signals that we often ignore could actually lead to something disastrous later on. So it's important for leaders to become intuitive, like you said, just to kind of not let yourself wait till the 0 hour and then try to fix it towards the end. That's not going to work.
No, it won't. And there are some employees that want to come back to work. Those extroverts out there, let them of a hybrid office. Let's get creative here. Yeah. One of the things that I noticed with the C-suite during COVID is all of a sudden R&D became important again. So when I was in corporate America, R&D was important. And then with the crash, that was one of the departments that was terminated. We're talking about research and development now. So when COVID hit, there was no backup plan from many companies because they had eliminated their R&D departments. There was no way for them to expand. It was the small businesses that were able to spin and pivot on a dime, and those that could, there were some that couldn't, became so creative. So you look at car manufacturers that started making masks to help us. Why wasn't something like that on the books before? You've got tooling that could create other things than cars. Why wasn't that there? This is a sad state that we put ourselves in. And I am not talking about relying on other countries. We could do that too. But let's look internally to see what else can you do. I remember hearing one CEO who was a CEO of a bakery company, bakery and pastries and things like that. And it was amusing. He said, what's happening, and this was a global company, is people are coming into our bake shops and buying flour, salt, baking soda. And we never thought to sell this. And I'm thinking, OMG, come on, take a page from psychology, take a page from demographics, take a page from yesteryear, and why wouldn't you think that? So where am I going? When moms and dads are home with children, they're looking for activities. Those activities come back from their parents and their grandparents, and they used to bake at home. Why wouldn't you think that would happen? Enough said.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because I think that innovation is something that you just it's a collection of thoughts and you just need to think to be creative. But I think
think is the operative word here.
absolutely. I just think we need to see things in perspective, maybe just kind of, zoom out a little bit and hey, there are things that we can innovate, can do together. You could be self reliant, self sustainable. And that's the motto at the end of the day. And the pandemic has surely taught us that.
Absolutely. So I know I'm talking too much, and so let's get to the rest of your questions.
Oh, that's totally fine. I love the conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, CB, what would be some sound bites that you'd like to share with our audience, something that they could take away from this?
Think, number one, with big capital letters and exclamation marks. Be creative and don't be afraid to ask. People talk about the big why now from Simon Sinek. Mine is real simple. Ask. And, I'm a graduate of the New School for Social Research. And for me, people need to be curious. That's part of asking. And my expression that I like to say to people, which is mine, the answer is the beginning of the question. It's not the end of the question. And if you frame your world that way, it will lead to creative solutions innovation. The answer is the beginning of the question.
That is just so wonderful. I think a lot of leaders are now looking for that inquisitiveness in people, and I also think that the pandemic sort of started instigating those characteristics, because so many people had nothing to do, and that's when their curiosity started developing, or they started discovering it again.
The young people are terrific at this. I had the opportunity to be invited into Clubhouse. And Clubhouse is this new app that you have to be invited to, and it's like a combination of radio and Zoom. You talk, and you talk with other people, and you meet other people, and you hear all kinds of wonderful ideas. I noticed that the young people had moderation next to their name, moderators next to their name. I thought, what is that about? Well, guess what? These kids are making money moderating other room chats. And I thought, son of a gun, how creative is that? They're making money advertising for sponsors. And I thought, what are you talking about? And so this one young woman said, let me show you how I do it. So it's not blatant. So in a conversation where we're all talking, I'll say, hey, you know what? My sister and I experienced this new game last night, this new app. It was like insane. And it really helped us to become closer to each other. And yet it was a lot of fun. It was called such and such. Think about it for a while. And then she would go on to discuss the other part of the conversation. And I'm thinking, man, that is just beautiful. Beautiful advertising, beautiful way to make money. That one, sitting at home at PJ's, talking about a company or leading a room, and you're making, and these, I looked them up. They have like 25,000 followers on Clubhouse. And I'm like, how did I miss this beat? And Clubhouse is still in beta. It's not even, you can't even get on it with a Android phone.
Wow.
I am so impressed with our young generation, and I am so jealous. I want to be born again.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what's coming out of these, new kind of new thinking capabilities. It beats me how, really young people are getting faster and faster at things. And you're right, they are sort of getting more and more creative.
And you know what?
Yeah.
We speak negatively about the young generation a lot, but here's one thing I'm noticing. They have a lot of patience and respect for the older generation. I am amazed on Clubhouse when I listen to an elder person get on and say, I don't understand this. I don't know this. And the room stops and the host and the moderators take the time to explain. And so kudos to the younger generation. We don't see their qualities enough.
All right. So, CB, I'm going to go to the last question and, wrap up the interview. I can continue this conversation forever, but I know we have to sort of, shorten this up. So, I'm going to ask you, what would be a quote that can really support or describe what you believe in life?
Well, I don't know if there's a coach my values in the fullest sense, because, my experience is different. But what I to the coaches who are part of the Association of Corporate Executive Coaches with your clients, because their clients are all at the top of the ladder. The way of the future is to be an enterprise-wide business partner with your clients. And what that means is when you're going in to work with somebody in the C-suite, you're not going in just to ask questions and expect for them to come up with the answers. You have to go in and understand all of the triggers for that person. And I'm using the word triggers from my dear friend Marshall Goldsmith and his book, Triggers. What affects the behavior of that person? What affects the solutions that that person needs to come to, be positive or negative? So you have to go in with an understanding of the business itself that they're in, their competition, their employees, what their share of the market is, what their return on investment is from their customers or clients. And that will give you a glimpse into supporting them in terms of leadership and or behavior change. We have moved coaching from the era of just simple questioning, which is appreciative inquiry.
Got it. I think that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, CB, for a wonderful interview, a wonderful conversation. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it, and it was really enlightening. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be part of your posse.
Well, take care, CB.
Thank you. I can't wait to see this. Bye.